Welcome to Esoteric Thoughts. Today I've got the great privilege of welcoming to the channel Killah Priest, a legendary rapper, an iconic rapper, and songwriter. So, Killah Priest,
So,
welcome to the channel.
man, thank you, man. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start off. This is going to be a bit of a back and forth interview. My questions are going to be all over the place, but as we go through, you'll see why. Can we start off with what's the story behind your name?
My name was given to me by the RZA and on 62nd during the era of what we call horrorcore, the Gravediggers. And before that, my name was Lord Messiah. I had a couple of names, but I took it and I put an emphasis on it as in killer, as in killing all negative and bad thoughts and bring about the priest aspect coming from the ancient and the oldest civilizations.
And touching on your music, I know recently you put out an album called Mother. What was the motivation behind that album?
Well, my mother had made a transition to the ancestor realm. She transitioned into the ancestor realm on July the 6th. And that just turned my whole life around. You know, I was building with the sister Miyoshi, and she's on my podcast. And she had lost her mother, and she lost her mother and her father. And then as she was telling me her story, I end up my mother transitioned too. So I thought it was like very deep and very needed that I just go into the mother aspect and give um, give praise to the person who brought me to the planet Earth, and as she dropped me off here and ascended to the ancestor realm.
So, going back, as a child, did you ever go to church? Did you have to go to church?
Indeed, indeed.
Like most
My
of us,
first,
like most of us. So, so,
most of
so,
us.
what denomination was that?
I believe it was Pentecostal.
Okay.
I believe, yeah, Pentecostal. My grandmother, I told a story yesterday to Nepal and the sisters. Shout out to them. They have a great podcast also. I was telling them that, you know, my grandmother, when I went to her church, all her church was like older people, and they would just like do spirituals. Like they had no instruments. They would just clap, stomp their feet. And it was more deep. It was more like a blues type of thing. And some might even say it was like bedeviled, you know, the way that they were channeling the most high spirit. And then my aunt, who was Aunt Liddy, who was aunt of mine that stayed with my grandmother, took me to Bible Way, and it was more upbeat with instruments.
So, before we talk deeper about your actual music, I'd like to circle back. But first of all, I'd like to make some observations that I saw in your music, especially in your lyrics. People tend to overlook the significance of dreams in the Bible. Daniel, Joseph, etc., Jacob. Do you subscribe to the esoteric side of the Bible, especially when it comes to dreams?
Let me say this close, most definitely. And that's why the prophets, see, when you're dealing with the Most High and you deal with those multiple facets, it's never everything is never on the surface. It's always deeper when you look into the channel. It's like going into an occultic book. The Bible is an occultic book also. You know, when you start talking about, you know, Melchizedek, who is this guy? Where is he from? Ezekiel called fire from heaven. They had some type of spirituality, and like you said yourself, Daniel, was able to read dreams and could turn fire into cool, you know what I mean? So yeah.
And very similarly, as a child, when I read the Bible, I always saw numbers,
Mm,
especially repetitive numbers. So that's what drew me to the Bible. And that's what
mm,
most of my queries as a child was asking the pastors, why do these stories have the same numbers, the same repetitive numbers, 3, 7, 12, 40, as an example? So how do you, is that something that you've picked up on in your journey in looking at the Bible?
You know, my co-host, she was just saying this. I didn't experience this, but I kind of caught it and it resonates with me, you know, by how the numbers of certain chapters, scriptures go in together. And when you look at it, of course it makes sense. Yo, it's a deep book. And if you look at it, it's spells, it's magic. It's it goes deeper than what people, you know, the religious aspect of it, because people didn't know then. They just wanted to know. And then the learned elders, the learned people wanted to keep it from the common to control them.
And the reason why I specifically highlighted those two questions regarding dreams and numbers in looking at lyrics on your music. So I refer specifically to the lyrics in Brother's Letter and HCOS. You make a number of references to dreams, and when I read the lyrics, I was drawn to, you mentioned the number three Supermen. You mentioned three rocks. So because
Mm.
I read and I specifically look at numbers, the number three stood out to me. You mentioned dreams quite significantly in the lyrics. What's the reason behind that?
Um, I can't reveal too much, but I will say this to you, that three is the magic number. They've been telling us since we were young. And in the mathematical calendar, three is known as understanding. When you get understanding, also it's the completion, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So it's like a completion. But when it goes into tales within the lyrics, if you read a lot like yourself, you would kind of coordinate to why the understanding of the three.
And I think I actually do. I think I
Tree.
do. So through your religious experiences as a child going into adulthood, what impact did religion have on your music and on the lyrics that you write?
um, I think a lot. A lot of people tend to run from it, be scared, but I kind of like ran into it and embraced it as what it was. I didn't fear it. I didn't. I took it on as a sort of spiritual aspect of it that, you know, is most needed. As you can go as far as early Christians as such as Ethiopia, and I kind of created, kind of saw that kind of connection to ancient Ethiopia, and I kind of seen the aspects of spirituality in that. So I didn't look at it at the whole surface, but I think that we the makers, the owners, and the cream of the universe of all things. And I think all things could be um, dealt with if it's dealt with freedom, justice, and truth, which is a correct balance.
So in your lyrics, when you're actually writing, do you consciously put in esoteric messages in the music, or does it just come natural?
Good question. It just come natural. I don't pre-think. I just feel the vibe. And that's what I really want to talk about. I think that's the seed of the soul. Like some people call it the seat of the soul. And when you look in deep, because I was always wondering, I mean, there was the Garden of Eden, there was remember what I wanted to do a show on this because one time I was intrigued by God actually speaking to his to his congregation and asking them, behold, the man has become as one of us. I just thought that was very deep, because now we have a celestial being speaking through the mind of man and wanting to come down and concerned about man instead of man being concerned about what's up in the universe. So I'm like, whoa, the universe wants to get in contact with us. So my receptors was open to that.
Have you ever looked into astrotheology?
Indeed.
And the reason why I ask is because, once again, in looking at your lyrics, you make quite a few celestial references. You talk about the zodiacs, you talk about the sun, you talk about the moon. So, in looking at your lyrics, I see so many correlations to the Bible in terms of celestial metaphors. I see numbers, I see esoteric messages in the Bible, I see esoteric messages in your lyrics. Uh, I'm not sure if everybody sees that, but when I look at that, that's what I see in your lyrics.
And those who have eyes, let them see, and those who have ears, let them hear. The cosmic Christ, the level of the Christ consciousness, and seeing on another level than just being a disciple, which means student. So to go into those Godheads, because he was actually a master student that was teaching them to rise their consciousness above. So I've learned to let go and just let energy be what it is, because it is going to be what it is anyway. And I just follow that truth and that existence until it takes me to where it wants to. And then I let it speak for me, for what the Paul calls the infallible, but the all within all, and let it speak, because it speaks and it harmonizes through nature itself anyway. Or the flowers wouldn't be green, or the plants wouldn't be green, and the flowers would be diverse of colors. That's an expression. And I think that we are all poetry in motion. So we an expression. So yeah, I speak for what Mr. Universe speaks for me. And that's why.
Which leads me on to quite a personal question. What or who is God to you?
I like that. Original man. That is so beautiful, man. Yo, you don't get questions like this all the day. It's a collective of consciousness, but it's the aspect in one. If I had to put it in one, in the seed of it, it would be love. And it would be the greatest understanding of all. It would just be love.
Now, from your, once again, in I tend to read lyrics rather than listen to them. So I have
Thank you.
a
Yes,
greater
Nepal.
appreciation, huh?
That's dope. Now I said Nepal said you was deep.
So in reading the lyrics, you have something that really stood out. I think it's in Mother. Uh, know ye not that ye are gods, and I think, can you explain what you mean by that?
Um, it's so layered in so many levels. Um, that's what the scripture said. You know, as far as it's so many, I can start so many levels of that. But we are more than what we think we are. You know, the wicked witch used to go into the mirror and say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And talking into the mirror is a reflection of self. So when we start looking into ourselves, because we were taught to hate ourselves and we were taught to not believe by the so-called rulers that we were nothing, when actually we are mutants. And the mutants, if you look at the movies, you see that they themselves had certain powers that they didn't want to use. So that what makes us gods. And we are guardians. We orchestrate the word God goes into the garden, into it falls into all. So we are more than just regular sheeple. We are gods having a human experience and we repeat the cycle until we become into the Godhead.
Now you've got a pretty big platform of your podcast of Killah Priest, and I've been watching you for a while, and there's one interview that really stands out to me, and I'm slightly envious that you were able to do it. Jordan Maxwell. How was that interview? I love that interview.
And I'm so glad. And he was like dealing with a little dementia as he was going into it. And I just took my time. But to hear the GOAT of symbolism and the way that his mind is constructed was so beautiful, because you don't get stuff like that. And it comes in, it doesn't matter. So everybody's caught into it's the mind that's the greatest part. And once we get back into our mind, we can tap into the zones, but he was tapped in. And my producer name for this album, Mr. Universe, is named Jordan Riverbanks. So it was so incredible to actually hear that voice. And it's a beautiful story. And I just got to open up because I've heard that he passed the torch. He never passed the torch. He told me um, things that came from him that I learned from his mind and from the universe going on. It was incredible.
How do you stay so grounded? Because in listening to your music and to reading your lyrics and uh, watching your channel, you're a very deep person on so many levels, but you're very grounded. You're very humble with it. Is that upbringing? Is that something you've learned to 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 adjust to with the fame and who you are? How do you do it?
I would say I don't. It's hard is stay true to self. Don't neglect yourself. I mean, I stay true to the core and knowing where I come from, and don't compromise myself from any industry, because this, that's for everyone out there. It's at the end of the day, it's the seed that's before the tree. You know what I'm saying? So I just stay focused on what I'm about, and I just don't let it bother me too much. There's too much stuff going on within.
Yeah.
It's too much of a great mission, such as yourself. I love meeting the collective, and it's like during this journey has been a beautiful journey. What meeting so many great minds.
So I heard you in an interview say that you don't like to offend people's belief system and that
Right.
you get something out of everything. Lessons you can learn from all belief systems. This is something that I've learned to appreciate over time. Can you expand on why specifically you say that?
I would have to go back to the Oriental or even before that, but the yin and yang, the symbol. And we can look at the universe. It's night and day. There's nothing very scary about the night, but it's necessary because it was always darkness before the sun came anyway. And the sun brought about light, but before the sun, it was always dark. We ourselves, even when it's light, we cast shadows, showing you that night is always there. It's always present, because the shadow shows us in that moment that we can deal with light, but darkness exists within that light, because you can look in any corner. And I think that they go together silently and beautifully. It's a music. It's such as one playing the drum and one playing the piano, two different instruments, but they're both instruments. And so I think it's all a part of one journey. Well, be fair, they taught us fear. Voodoo is not scary once you're in it and you understand. The spider web is scary to the moth, but to the spider, its architect. It's the snowflake.
So I receive messages from people struggling with religion, struggling to get their heads around certain religious concepts. Some people want to leave, some people are not sure of what they're hearing, some people are challenging the literal side. Some find it hard to embrace the esoteric. But I'm finding that generally people are beginning to wake up a little bit more, and they're beginning to challenge rather than going along with the status quo of these are very literal things. What advice would you give to anybody who's struggling with religion and trying to understand religion, especially from a literal point of view?
Be true to self, to yourself. And remember, don't be afraid of anything. It's just people looking at you. And it's something that's inside of you that's shining, that they're looking at. And that if you get a thought, question everything, because it was here before you got here. You know what I'm saying? It been existing for ages before you got here. And question. Questions are meant to be answered. Knock, the door shall be answered. The door shall be open. Ask, and it shall be answered. Seek, and you shall find. The ancients said it throughout. And trust yourself. Trust yourself. Don't start doubting. Doubt was taught also. Doubt, fear, and all those things they didn't exist in the beginning, in the humble beginnings, in the tribal. When you go back to your essence, doubt, fear, all of those things was taught because they set standards. Be you. Just be true to yourself.
And going back to the music, what do you have coming up on a musical level?
Oh man. Woo. Man. Besides Mother out right now, go get that. I have Mr. Universe that's coming out 11. It's coming out November 1st. A couple more days. And it's been a journey to create it. It's real good. I got the podcast every Monday and every Wednesday, Pacific time, at 5 o'clock.
Killah Priest, thank you for joining Esoteric Thoughts today. We appreciate your time, we appreciate your energy, and we appreciate your advice. Thank you.
Man, thank you, brother. Thank you for having me. Peace to the esoteric family.